Hello everybody, happy Sunday. Thank you for being here. Appreciate each and every one of you that show up in any capacity as always. So thank you for being here. Hope you are all having a wonderful weekend, had a good week last week. The solar eclipse came through this weekend, yesterday in Aries, so that is the last eclipse that we have in the Aries Libra axis. So now we are fully within Virgo Pisces axis for eclipses. So winding down that eclipse energy still. So eclipses, we know that like they can play out over longer periods of time, even over a few months, up to 6 months until the next eclipse set pair comes through. But really, we're still within the eclipse energy until we get through this lunar cycle for sure, until the full moon that we have coming up here in the sign of Taurus. So we're still within the energy, but it's starting to wind down, starting to wrap down. So I know a lot of people have talked about how these couple weeks in between the eclipses were pretty chaotic. Whether that's good or bad, just busy, lots of things going on. A variety of things, good and maybe not so good. And that's pretty typical of the in-between eclipse time there. Seems like that's when things stir and things move around. So hopefully this finds you very, very well and everybody is doing great today. I'm going to put the intention up here for this week if you haven't seen it already. Our intention for this week is new forms take shape. New forms take shape. This is our intention to lean into based on the astrology of the week, the placements of the planets, the interactions between them, looking at everything going on from Sunday to Saturday for this week, bringing us into the first week of April and seeing just what comes up from that. And this is the intention that came from it. So let's sit with this for just a moment, whether or not this is the first time you've heard this intention or not. It's always released Saturday, so that way you can sit with it yourself a little while, along with the weekly astrological video that also comes out on Saturday. So I'm going to sit with it for just a moment, see what comes up, if anything at all. Any thoughts, feelings, emotions, anything it makes you want to do or not want to do. If there's excitement, if there's hesitancy, you don't even have to put a name to anything that comes up. You just acknowledging and just seeing what it stirs within you. New forms take shape. New forms take shape. So we have a few things that we're looking at this week. I'm going to go ahead and put the chart up here so that way we can take a look at that the way we have been recently. The first thing to note is that Neptune has entered the sign of Aries now. We've been mentioning this for the last little while, and it's here. So in this chart, this is the chart of the moment now from where I am at, and Aries is in the 7th house in this chart. So if you follow the numbers in the center to the number 7, that is the 7th house, and you'll find the sign of Aries. And if you see right against the bottom black line there, you'll see the 00 degrees, and next to that the glyph for Neptune. So we have Neptune has entered the sign of Aries officially. We've talked about how this only happens approximately once every 14 years. In the fall, Neptune will dip back into 29 degrees Pisces for a very short little while. But other than that, this is it. We will not see Neptune in the sign of Pisces again for our lives. So this is now where Neptune is for over a decade here. And then the other big thing that we're going to talk about this week is a trine and a sextile that is working together here. So we have Saturn at 24 degrees of Pisces in the 6th house in this chart. So follow those numbers in the center to 6. It'll be just the house just below the 7th house where Aries is, and you'll find Pisces. We have Saturn at 24 degrees of Pisces right here with the first planet and the first glyph in the sign of Pisces here. Making a trine to Mars in Cancer. Cancer is the 10th house in this chart. So if you see Mars is at 23 degrees right now, we'll move into the 24th degree in just a couple days, and then that trine will be exact. This is a trine that is applying right now. In the middle of this trine, we have a sextile from Uranus to both of these planets. So we have the major trine, Saturn and Mars coming together through this week, just after Neptune's ingress into Aries, just dipping its toe into there, just after the solar eclipse in the sign of Aries. So we have this trine coming through, and then there's a sextile from Uranus at 24 degrees of Taurus. So Taurus is the 8th house in this chart. And if looking at this chart just ever overwhelms you, disregard in however much you need to, just because I don't want this to become confusing or to become too much or too muddled or just overwhelming in any way prior to our meditation. So if this is just too much, then just disregard, listen, and go from there. So just throwing that out there. I thought using this as a good tool just to kind of get used to seeing the chart and visualizing what's going on. So anyways, back to this. 8th house is the sign of Taurus, and you'll see Uranus at 24 degrees, making a sextile to Mars in Cancer, so that's 2 signs away, 60 degrees as a sextile, and the same thing on the other side to Saturn at 24 degrees of Pisces. So those are the major things that we're looking at this week. If I roll the calendar for the clock forward here a couple days, we will notice that Venus comes into conjunction with the North Node later on this week, and then we'll be applying to a conjunction with Saturn. So Venus and Saturn are going to come together just at the end of this week here, and we'll be interacting with the trine with Mars and the sextile with Uranus here. So we have Venus coming into this later on this week as well. So all of that together, those are the major things that we are focusing on this week. And I'm going to get rid of this here. Okay, so those are the aspects that we have. We have Neptune moving into the sign of Aries. That happened early this morning. And then we have a trine between Saturn and Mars, a sextile interacting with both of those. And then we have Venus coming into the mix a little bit later on this week and coming into a conjunction with Saturn and then interacting with Mars and Uranus at the same time. So lots of shifting and lots of changing going on here this week. I'm just going to adjust my screen here now, still figuring out the bringing in solar fire, but I think it works and I like it. So okay, so we have this big shift for Neptune, right? Neptune has been in the sign of Pisces for since 2011, so better half of 14 years, and is now shifting into the sign of Aries. Some people will notice that right away. Some people, it will just be more of a overall theme that we will kind of recognize maybe as these years start to formulate and start to go by, or maybe even looking back in hindsight at the themes that have been playing out within our lives kind of broadly or overall. But we can also see this sometimes pretty specifically collectively, like out in the public, out in the community, and like within big groups of people, within the collective energy. You can often see it very, very strongly. So Neptune is a planet that has to do with our own growth, our own spiritual growth. There's lots of spiritual connotations that come along with Neptune, right? If we are not talking about a spiritual aspect, then we are looking at our own personal growth. We are looking at discovery. We are looking at the evolution of ourselves. We are looking at that which we aspire to move forward towards, and those are Neptunian topics that are about finding purpose, finding soul, and finding things within ourselves. So Neptune in the sign of Pisces is very passionate, very compassionate, and very sympathetic and receptive to whole collective energies. So when Neptune is in the sign of Pisces, we are bringing in large amounts of things. We are bringing in lots of different things, and we are kind of collecting them together. Neptune in the sign of Pisces is very collective and very collecting. So it feels like lots of energy pooling together and sitting with that, reflecting on that energy. It's a feminine sign, it's a water sign, so there's lots of emotion, there's lots of feeling, there's lots of bringing things in and cultivating energies and waters and emotions and connections within us when Neptune is in the sign of Pisces. When Neptune moves into the sign of Aries, we move from that water sign into a fire sign. We move from a feminine sign into a masculine sign. So you have those themes of self-discovery, our own spiritual journey, and our own evolution and self-growth, going from this collective pool in this this reflective, contemplative place. So I'm sure there's been a lot of people that have been within this space of thinking on and considering and contemplating, their path, purpose, a lot probably related to the house that Pisces falls in within your own chart. There's been a lot of this contemplation, a lot of this bringing energy in, lots of focusing on lots of different things. It can be overwhelming. It can be a little anxiety inducing. It can also be very creative in the fact that when we bring things into us, or more energies, more emotions, more connections, then we just have more to put out there. So creativity can be creating anything. It can be cultivating, creating a relationship. It can be creating, cultivating works of art. It can be creating and cultivating a passion within us. It's just attaining all of these things and bringing them all in and collecting them and then being able to utilize them and do something with it. That do something with it feels like now maybe as Neptune moves into the sign of Aries, maybe now that doing something comes as Neptune moves into this fire sign, the place of Mars, where things are much more, there's lots more movement, there's much more action, there is initiation, there is starting things, there is a focus on the individualistic energy, so whatever is right here at hand compared to all of the things at one time. Neptune in the sign of Pisces may be thinking and considering the growth. Not to say that there has been inactivity, because this, Neptune in the sign of Pisces is just one planet, right? So there's lots of other things that are going on at any given time, as well as interactions within our own birth chart at the same time. So this is just one small little piece of the astrological puzzle. It's never the full picture. We're talking about one planet being ingressing from one sign to another. These are just more planetary themes for this planet. And then themes that we can apply to the topics of the house that we find that in within our own birth chart and interactions and whatnot. But moving into the sign of Aries, this self-discovery, this evolution, spiritual growth can be much more individualistic. It can be much more moving. There can be action related to it. So as Neptune moves and ingresses into the sign of Aries, lots of probably, I'm thinking about people acting on what they've been considering within the last while. So the things that you've been cultivating and bringing in the house where Pisces is within your own chart, now Neptune moves on into the next house. There is a progressive way in which the, as we progress through the different signs and through the different houses of a chart, especially if you look through like evolutionary astrology, there's a progression of these signs and of these houses that go from the first to the second all the way through the 12th, right? So Neptune also, all the planets that go through these signs, they go through that progression. They go through that progression as well. So the discovery, the evolution, the growth, and the spiritual process, the process of looking at, what is my higher purpose, higher power. Some of what Neptune has to deal with makes me think a little bit about the sun sometimes, not to conflate or confuse the two, but there's an inspiration that comes with Neptune, and that inspiration in the sign of Pisces is about connection. It's about deep inner connection. It's more inward and more reflective. And then in the sign of Aries, it's much more outward, it's masculine, it's much more communicative. So it's going to reach outward rather than reaching inward. So now maybe if we've been bringing in lots of different things, maybe now as we go forward into the sign of Aries, maybe now there is a cultivation of initiatory energy of just whatever Neptune has been collecting within your lives. Now how can you use that to move forward, to start something, to go forward boldly and courageously, which is something that the house that Aries holds within your chart probably longs for, if it isn't something that it has. Where can we move forward? Where can we move any sort of stagnant energy that has come through? I think Neptune in the sign of Aries may be a really good time for some people to start some sort of movement practice of some kind. I bet you we'll have more people that will be like inspired to move their physical body, whether in whatever fashion. So walking, yoga, swimming, any activity, hiking, anything that moves your body. I think we're going to see an increase of that here in the next, while we have Neptune in the sign of Aries. So you may even notice that yourself. So there's a way of burning off stuck energy that has been maybe accumulated in the sign of Pisces. Neptune also is, can be very delusionary. So it can, we are looking so deeply into things and feeling so deeply into things that we can just go overboard. So we may just, I could see burnout with Neptune in the sign of Aries, where we just move, go so much that it's hard to, it's hard to know when to stop. So either we go too far, or we burn ourselves out, or we do too much of the thing, or whatever it may be. So it's very forward, it's very moving, and this is the era that we are in. You may not just necessarily feel it all of a sudden. It's not like it's kind of like how your birthday rolls around. You don't really wake up feeling older, right? Slowly over time, over the next weeks, months, things happen that kind of make you realize that you're a year older, but you don't just wake up the next day feeling that you're older. It's kind of like that. So we have this shift from Neptune. At the same time, we have this interaction between Saturn and Mars. Saturn and Mars is very calculated, it's very formative, it's very foundational, and it's very focused energy. So when you have a trine, it's expansive between these two planets. Saturn, the foundations, the structures, the frameworks of our lives, the formations. I get the word forms here from Saturn a lot this week. It's the patterns and it's the shapes that form our lives. Coming into action or interaction with Mars, the planet of action, drive, motivation. So we have the ability to make movements that can benefit the overall structures and forms and the shapes of our lives and of our worlds. This may mean that we have to let go of things. Mars and Saturn are both very good at saying no, or severing or cutting things. It can be letting go of things within our lives. It's a water sign, so it can be letting go of different connections or emotions. It can be an expansion of those emotions and feeling into them here too within water signs. But there is a way that we can lay either new foundations or improve the foundations that are there when we have Mars and Saturn coming together. When we have Uranus in interaction here, then we're able to do something a little different, or have a little extra courage or bravery to move in a little different way than we have before. Venus comes towards that interaction later on this week and comes into play, and then you have Saturn and Venus coming together, and there's a maturation of the things that we desire, our relationships. We are able to look at things a little bit more seriously, but in a way that is going to allow us to move forward a little bit more positively. So these new forms that are taking shape, they're very foundational, and they can be very long lasting here at the same time. They can be very groundbreaking. Saturn, Mars, Uranus, these are not planets that tiptoe around things. They are, they can be loud or impactful when they speak, and you can feel the ground shake when they move things. So thinking of these things being very it can be very groundbreaking or cracking things open. And it feels like cracking open something that is stepping into a new world at the same time. Neptune, the planet that is very receptive and sympathetic, and it's discovering and looking for things. It's wanting to understand things and wanting to have a compassion of understanding. So there's very much a understanding of an awareness, not an understanding, an awareness of energies that are around with Neptune. So if we can have this new awareness while also being able to take some sort of action and have a little bold, courageous energy here, then the things that could be created through this week, or the foundations that could be laid, or even just the pathway towards the foundations can be very, very long lasting, and they can be very, very beneficial. They can be a little bit serious. So it may be looking at, things that are working and aren't working. So that may have us cutting or eliminating things, or realizing, what is working, what isn't working, and then going forward from there. Neptune in Aries coming through here in this shifting of this energy is Neptune stepping into the warrior energy. So if Neptune wants to discover, self-actualize, it's our spiritual journey, then we have the spiritual warriors that are coming through here. So you have that power to move forward and to just take the next step. Maybe moving through belief rather than like having to see things when you have Neptune in the sign of Aries. Being able to go on a feeling, on a gut feeling, or like, I know this will get me to the next point that I want to go to, even if I can't quite see that quite yet. So there's some really, really interesting things coming through here this week that are forming. And when I was thinking about this week, and I was just thinking about just flat out the new era of Neptune in the sign of Aries, and then this very focused, calculated, yet groundbreaking and reaching out of something different energy that we have coming through here this week, it had me thinking of like creation stories. So I was thinking about, I came across lots of different stories about like the energy of creation coming from the center. Most of the creation stories come from like some sort of energy that is being accumulated and condensed into something, and then it comes forward out from that, right? So like even the Big Bang, we have like dense energy and matter all accumulating together, and then it explodes outward. We have, across several different traditions, we have creation stories of the cosmos coming from some sort of cosmic egg, or some sort of celestial creational egg coming through and then birthing all of creation. We have the idea of ourself and our purpose coming from the sun within astrology here. So there's all energy of creating and moving things comes from some sort of center. The creation of life comes from a very small egg within a womb, and then it grows from there, right? That energy feels similar to coming across this Pisces Aries axis here too, of the accumulation of things coming together and then being birthed into the world, and then moved from one small little space. So thinking of like all of the energy coming together in a ball, circle, an egg shape or something like that. And then it just keeps growing and condensing, more energy coming together, accumulating things kind of like Pisces. And then at some point it expands and it creates into something else, into something, something bigger, something more beautiful, something evolutionary. And then it explodes into all of everything. That happens from within our beings when we meditate. We start with energy within us, and then it radiates out from our being. We see this in creation stories and myths across all different traditions of energy starting from a center, whether that's God, whether that's an accumulation of energy, whether that's the scientific story of the Big Bang. It's energy starting here and accumulating, and then it expands outward and it breaks and busts outward, and then something new takes form and takes shape. That was kind of the idea that was coming through when I was looking at things that are coming through this week. So it's not that like everybody is going to have a rebirth or anything like that necessarily, but it's like what has been accumulated and what has been cultivated might now be coming to some sort of like pressure point or like compression point to where we have to do the thing now. We have to act now. We have to do whatever the thing is for you, whatever the thing is going on in your life. It may be coming to a head, and you may be having to step into that role, whatever that means. Saturn and Venus coming together later on this week speaks to needing to finding balance and harmony within an elevation or an evolution of some kind, a maturation or a growth of some kind, where we have we have experienced certain things, so then we take those experiences and then we grow from them and we move forward with them. Saturn and Venus could also speak to feeling held down and needing to find a way to break free from those things, with Uranus coming into the sextile at the same time. So there could be some super serious energy, but there also can be some very foundational, formative, like groundbreaking, cracking across the surface of the ground, and then new light coming up from it. Or thinking of that mythical creation, egg of creation, where all of the energies of the universe are pulling together in one circular form of some kind, and then whatever the being is cracks open the egg slowly, maybe quickly, I don't know. Usually when an egg cracks, it just kind of like slowly starts to come around, I think, right? I guess I'm not exactly sure. And then all of a sudden there's this Uranian moment where the egg cracks and whatever's in the egg comes out. So this feels very formative. It feels very like new things coming into shape here this week as I'm looking into this week. So very, very cool, I think. Very, very interesting. Yeah, very, very interesting. I'm going to go with that. Cards for this week. I ended up with 3 of them because I needed a follow-up. So I have these newer oracle cards that I'm using here. Let me move this so I can see, and then I can kind of tell, like, if you can actually see. Okay, so I have these new oracle cards that I've started working with, and that was the first that I pulled out, thinking on all of this energy that we have around here, and I get the card of wisdom. There's a lot going on in this card symbolically as far as the illustration goes. So you have a gentleman who, he's kind of balding in hair and has gray hair, so I'm assuming that he's somewhat older, even though we can't see his face. There is a family off in the background that is looking to him. It almost looks like they're looking to him for guidance or, something that they're expecting from him. The dog is looking up to him. This man has lots of wisdom that is within him that he has accumulated. The sun is shining over top of him. He's wearing a purple robe, so maybe the wisdom, it has something to do with spiritual knowledge or some sort of higher information. That's what wisdom is, I suppose, right? So there is a wisdom there that has been accumulation. There's knowledge, there's information, there's experiences. That's kind of what I was talking about with this Pisces period that is wrapping up here. Neptune is wrapping up in the sign of Pisces, but we have eclipses in the sign of Pisces, so that energy is definitely still there, but this Neptunian time in the sign of Pisces, what have you brought out of that? What knowledge and information and wisdom have you gotten from Neptune in the sign of Pisces? So since 2011, what have you learned related to the house, most likely, if you know your chart, where you find Pisces, and what have you learned and what have you discovered through there? Where has been the evolution and the growth? So I pulled that card, and then I wanted to pull, just a regular tarot card, and I got the 5 of Swords. 5 of Swords is usually a struggle. It's usually a difficulty of some kind. It's something to overcome. It's overcoming something that with swords, relating to our passions and our purposes and the things that drive us, the things that we really, really want and that we desire. The wisdom coming along with that. So it's like we have the wisdom and the information to overcome the difficulties and the strife. This makes me think of Venus coming into contact with Saturn later on this week. That mature Venus, as it comes into contact with Saturn, has the ability to overcome problems by looking to what she's already experienced, by looking to the past and having some sort of wisdom of what she's learned and the information and the knowledge that has come through. And then I just really wanted a follow-up. So it was kind of like, what can we gain from, what will we gain, or where will we go from the wisdom that we've gotten that is going to allow us to overcome the problems and the obstacles that are in our way. And I felt like I just wanted a follow-up because I just felt like it was a little heavy, like there's a lot of work to be done, and maybe there is a lot of work to be done for people. The devil in reverse is what came up. So using the wisdom and the knowledge and the information that we have accumulated helps us overcome our problems, and then that which stands within our way, that which is holding you back, that which is the devil within the situation or your life, is released. It's moved away from you because it's in the reverse position. So it feels like these cards are illustrating the serious focus across this aspect that we're talking about this week here. There may be needing to look at what is and isn't working, kind of like I said a few minutes ago, and seeing what we need to release and what we need to let go of in order to let these new shapes come in. Uranus in aspect there wants to break free from the mold. It wants to do something a little bit different. It wants to move beyond, it's an aspect with Saturn, to create foundations, move in aspect with Mars to create foundations in aspect with Saturn that are long lasting and will build a solid foundation on the ground here. So that's what I see, and that is the angle that I want to go into for this week here. So how are those things shaping within your lives, and how do you see where there could be this foundational cracking of some sort of accumulation of energy, whether that's creation energy, whether that's an accumulation of energy that you have been cultivating, skills, knowledge, information, resources, assets, allies, any of that type of stuff, knowledge and information, resources, relationships, self-discovery, all of these things that you've accumulated to be able to move forward into the next phase, into maybe an action phase with Neptune moving into the sign of Aries. So, cool things can be very progressive this week. It can be very, can be a little bit serious and a little bit calculated, and a little bit of having to, weighing things, whether they're working well or not working well, a little analyzing maybe, and then letting go of that which does not serve you well. So that's what we see here for this week. I'm going to take a look at the comments because I see a few here. Yeah, good stuff. And the cracking open of energy. Melissa, you've said something like that to me too. So yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, looking at the house, so Pisces being your 9th house, so Neptune moving from the 9th house into the 10th house. So if there's been some sort of focus on those 9th house topics of higher education, higher learning, higher wisdom, traveling, and the thoughts and the beliefs, the principles that you hold to, Rob, and kind of discovering your own belief systems, your own moralities within some way, ethics, morals, systems, frameworks, the different systems that we're a part of too. So like there's a systematic approach to the 9th house that includes like like bureaucratic type systems that we're a part of, government, judicial systems, those bigger overarching systems that have some sort of hold in our life too. So those are all ninth house things moving towards the 10th house, which is public life, public view, reputation, career, things like that. So yeah, cool things to contemplate on. And I think contemplating as Neptune moves from one sign to another is a great space to be in. And then hopefully that will allow you to utilize this other energies that we have coming through this week, or just being aware as these things come through. So that's what we have for the astrology of this week. I think there is new and improved or shifting, maybe not improved, because that always, sometimes it's easy to use language that feels like we always have to be reaching for something else. We always have to be moving forward and progressing, which in a way is true, but it can also be very exhausting. Sometimes it's nice to just know that we're like okay where we're at for a moment and content where we're at, right? So just shifting and changing rather than like progressing forward. Just rolling with the energy rather than feeling like it's not always climbing a mountain, it's just the energies as they start to shift and meld and form. And that might be a little bit more conducive to the general flow of energy for some people, if that makes sense. So I think there is good ability to contemplate this week, to be able to take a serious look at what is and isn't working, take action on top of that, and to be able to have really some sort of authority with Mars and Saturn here, and being able to expand on an authority that isn't like our own inner authority, rather than like an authority oppressing upon others or whatnot, but just pressing upon our own path and our own journey here. So really there's a lot of energies that are rolling around here this week, and I kind of like them because I like the forms and I like the shapes, and I like the shifting of the forms and the shapes too, and just looking at what is ushering in here next. Yeah, so that's what we have for this week. I'm going to leave the intention up for just another moment for anybody to look at while I just take a couple deep breaths here. Just kind of recentering. We have formative and foundational energy here. We have shifting energy. We have cracking open of foundations and forms that allow them to shift into a different energy. Just like any formational creative energy, thinking of the scientific Big Bang, thinking of all of this energy compressing and matter going together, and then all of a sudden just expanding outward. Thinking of life starting from within the smallest, tiniest egg within a womb, and then within 9 months you have a full-blown baby. So you start with this little teeny tiny egg and it goes thinking of creation stories where we have a buildup of energy starting from a center and expanding outward. That's the energy that we have here coming through potentially this week. Neptune moving from sign to sign, from a feminine sign into a masculine sign, from Pisces into Aries, no less. The ruler of Aries is in this interaction that we were talking about. It's things not exploding when I go it's cracking open. It's allowing new things to come forward. It's allowing things that are below the surface to come forward. So that means that they're there somewhere birthing or gestating, or, you know, those things that we've accumulated in the sign of Pisces, allowing them to come into whatever the new form is in your own life here. So I'm going to take our intention down here, and then you'll be able to see our intentional candle. You'll notice that my table is pretty close to empty this week. I have a couple pieces of kyanite on here. They are my favorites, my go-tos, and I had them out, so that's why they're here. It felt like new slate, new space and just clearing was really, really good here for this week, to be able to make room to expand what we've already had. So that's why I have a very clean, open table here this week. So I'm going to light the intentional candle, and as I do so, I'm going to recite the intentional phrase. As I recite the intentional phrase, I encourage you to say it with me in whatever capacity that you are able to. So I encourage you to say it out loud, write it down, say it in your head, whatever works well for you. So light the intentional candle, flame ignites, and as the flame ignites, it begins to grow. As the flame grows, so does our intention. New forms take shape. New forms take shape. If you're ready to go ahead and do so, I invite you now to close your eyes. If you're not quite ready to do that, perhaps you can find somewhere in front of you that you can gaze ever so softly at without staring intently at. Softening your gaze, relaxing your eyes until eventually it feels that they're ready to close on their own. Slowly and gently coming into a place of stillness, maybe a place of softness. Whatever you need to do ahead of that. If you have some energy you need to get out, you need to shake it out, you need to stand up for a moment. Get yourself to a nice, calm, comfortable position in your own time. As we all come to a place of stillness in the way that works best for us at this moment, individualizing this energy as Neptune moves into the sign of Aries, we find the pace of our breath. And as you start to turn your attention towards your breath, I encourage you to take just a few moments to recognize and acknowledge where the breath is at this moment. Before we change anything, before we alter, there is plenty enough time for that this week. Let's start with acknowledging where we are at this moment. So here, as you sit with your breath, I encourage you to not change or alter your breath, but just acknowledge the ebbs and flows that it naturally has on its own at this moment. There are shifts this week. As well as moments and movements that could lead to future shifts and progresses and flows of energy. After you've taken a moment to sit with your breath, slowly and gently we begin to deepen the inhale and the exhale. Here, allow your only goal to be that each inhale is slightly deeper than one that became before it, bringing in slightly more air than the breath that came prior. And allow your goal on the exhale to be that you are releasing slightly more air, slightly more tension than you did with the exhale that came before that. Each round of breath expanding ever so slowly and gently. Neptune has been in Pisces for quite some time. Neptune and the sign of Pisces have some things in common. In fact, in modern astrology, Neptune is contributed as one of the rulers of the sign of Pisces. There is compassion, there is sympathetic energy, and there is a receptivity, a sensitivity to energies that are around. Now that sympathetic and sensitive energy has shifted into Aries, into the sign of the Ram, the home temple of Mars. The warrior, the individualistic, the reactor, the initiator, that goes forward in action, sometimes without always having a clear plan. There is ambition, there is movement. How can you move sympathetically? How can you move with a compassionate energy? The path of Neptune through our chart speaks to a path of discovery, a spiritual journey, a path of self-actualization, our own personal growth and development. As that planet of Neptune moves into the sign of Aries, you may feel called to act upon what you have discovered. You may feel your own personal power growing. It may grow in such an intuitive fashion that you don't even realize it until you've already been there. New forms take shape from this courageous action and the evolution that comes from it. For better or worse, new forms take shape. This week, Saturn and Mars come together in a trine. They come together where they can expand on each other's energy. They can unite their strengths and use them together. Offering each other a helping hand as well as support. Bold, courageous action that we feel so connected with, so in tune with in a water sign. That the actions that come may feel to just flow through. We are able to discipline. We are able to plan. We are able to carry out. And if we need to carry out in a way different than we have before, thank you, Uranus. I want you to consider the foundations that you have been working to create. What are the foundations and the forms within your life that have been calling to you recently? Maybe asking for some adjustments or some attention. Perhaps noticing where we find the sign of Pisces within our own chart, if you know your birth chart. Considering the house topics. There has been much contemplation in this area over the last 14 years. Last couple years we've had Saturn here as well, amping up the focus on this area of our lives, calling us to take it seriously in a way, calling us to see what is and what isn't working, allowing us to strip away that which doesn't serve us well. Saturn, old man, father time, the reaper of karma and of souls. Death and decay itself. Letting go of that which no longer serves you. This is a process that you have been in for some time now. However, with Neptune moving out of this sign, any fog and nebulous that has been in that area may be shifting and leaving, but there's still a focus with the North Node and the North Node eclipses that are to come here. Still a big focus on this Pisces area of your chart. This week you have a trine, a water trine from Cancer, Mars. The house where Cancer is within your own chart can expand with Saturn this week, allowing us to take action, allowing us to move, allowing us to separate and individuate when needed. Taking one step this week towards progress, towards the new forms that are taking shape. Later this week, Venus comes into the picture, coming in to hold Saturn's hand. As Saturn calls us to let go of the troubles and the struggles, release that Five of Swords that may be weighing on our back. Venus comes along, holding Saturn's hand, whispering, "We're here together. We're in search of balance. We're in search of harmony. We're in search of desire and joy." And maybe Venus realizes that there's a different way. There's something to be released. Saturn shows Venus what is ready to be let go of. And Venus says, "I'll make it easier for you to let go of." New forms take shape this week. The ground may shake, it may tremble beneath you. The ground may crack. The egg may crack. The Big Bang expands. There may be chaos. There may be struggle and strife at first. But just as the pathway of the cards showed us at the beginning of this meditation, we release that which holds us back. We release whatever that negative pull or that devil is within us. Or without of us too. It doesn't have to be from within you. That which has been pulling on you and dragging you and weighing you down. As we close this meditation, I invite each and every one of you to take a nice deep breath in with me. Breathing in through your nose, bringing in all of that universal energy and the ethers around you, and exhale together, release. Releasing any stress, any tension, as well as releasing a small part of you into the universe, into the ethers around you. One more deep breath in, breathing in through your nose if possible. And the biggest exhale you've released yet today. Cultivating that which you've accumulated. Using that to spring into action. Formative and foundational energy. We can create the pathway for groundbreaking energy this week. Still have retrograde planets. Mercury and Mars are still retrograde last week for Mercury. Venus will be coming along in the next little bit. But for now, she's going to move towards Saturn, and she's going to hang out with Saturn for a little while. You're not going to get more than a couple degrees away from each other before coming right back into exact conjunction in April. We are in this process of letting go of that which does not bring us joy, does not bring us harmony, does not bring cohesion and balance to the relationships in our lives. That which does not bring balance to the overall function of our lives. Thank you, thank you, thank you for joining me here tonight. Not only to show up for this meditation and for this space, but also for showing up for you and yourself. Lots of individuation energy here coming in this week as Neptune moves into Aries. Lots of being able to separate and stop when we need to. Lots of being able to calculate. But doing it in the name of Venus. Doing it looking for something better. She's still looking for and still reviewing and still revisiting. So Venus is not quite ready to move forward and march on and not look back. She's still reconsidering. Mercury is too. Last week for Mercury. So as these new forms take shape, what actions can you take this week? What formative, foundational, structured, calculated actions can you take? Are there habits that you can initiate? Are there things you can start keeping track of? Are there things that you've been meaning to let go of to make space for new things to come in that you have not gotten rid of? That can be physical or energetic space. But that looking at what we have and what we need to move away from, what we need to move towards energy is definitely here this week. So I hope everybody goes forward and has a wonderful week. I hope this week allows you to step into either new territory or with a new confidence that the changes that you are making are exactly where you're supposed to be, because they are. So again, once more, thank you, thank you, thank you. I will see you all again next week, next Saturday. The weekly video will be out addressing the whole entire week. I go into a more comprehensive explanation of everything in that video than I do here. It's much more focused and calculated. Mars, Saturn coming through here. It's just much more focused here. So they're really meant to companion each other. Intention will be out next Saturday as well, and I will see you all back here Sunday. So if you haven't seen the video for this week, check that out on YouTube. And yeah, go forward, and I hope everybody has a wonderful week with the new forms that are taking shape, and you are able to bring that intention into your life somehow. So thank you, thank you, thank you, all of you. Appreciate you as always. So have a good night.